Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Houston Rockets Daily, where we make daily Rockets videos. If that's something that interests you and you guys enjoy this video, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button. Today I want to actually talk about the Rockets acquiring like a legitimate superstar. I feel like this is something that we've kind of been talking about, or actually, we talked more about this last season. I think that was like a pretty big vocal point last season was, all right, traded away James Harden, traded away PJ Tucker, traded away Russell Westbrook, traded away all these players for all these first-round draft picks. And the hope is that eventually you can kind of package those, bundle them up together, and try and get a young star. So there was a tweet coming out from the NBA Central earlier today. It might have been I think it was today. And this is a report from Howard Beck, who is a writer for Sports Illustrated and Bleacher Report. So here's a tweet. Team executives are bracing for the next disenchanted star to ask out. Speculation focused on Zion Williamson in New Orleans, Damian Lillard in Portland, and Donovan Mitchell in Utah. Now, just based off of positions, I'm making this video about Zion because, Damian Lillard would be awesome to head on over to Houston, but I don't know if that's necessarily in the cards. I would imagine, though, to be quite honest with you guys, I would imagine Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell aren't technically off of the table if they ever were to openly become available, because I understand Jalen Green, I understand KPJ, but I don't know what Raphael Stone thinks about those two players as far as the long-term future, where maybe you try and get an upgrade, but I think it's very, very more unlikely, very unrealistic that either of those two players, to be honest with you, I was going to say ever end up in Houston, but at least the next 3 years, I don't think either of those dudes will be a Houston Rocket. Now, Zion's a really interesting situation here, and the reason I'm making this video is because Roosh Williams tweeted out today, this morning, saying, a reminder to all Rocket fans that a star or several stars become disgruntled every season, and Houston has enough draft picks and interesting contracts to always be in the discussion to add talent next to its young core. So he's 100% right. He's 100% right. And I think this is one of those reasons where I'm, after the trade deadline, I'm not too, it's like a love-hate. There's part of me that's saying, I'm happy we kept Christian Wood, but then there's also part of me saying, why the hell didn't you get value for Eric Gordon? Why didn't you trade Eric Gordon for, any future first you can take on? But it's all okay. It's all okay. The Rockets, they have so many young, intriguing players, especially after this last draft class, that, as Arush points out, the Rockets should always be in the mix. They should be in the mix at least for the next 5 years, realistically. The downside with right now is Brooklyn. There was a point where Brooklyn, 1 month ago, was looking like this would be legitimately the last season that they would have any type of valuable player, because it was looking like James Harden was going to ask for a trade in the offseason. Then it looked like Kyrie Irving would probably follow him, leaving town, and then eventually you'd have Kevin Durant being like, well, why am I here? So Brooklyn, the only downside with that is we have so many Brooklyn's picks, first-round picks for the next handful of years, and now they have Ben Simmons, now they have Seth Curry, now they have Andre Drummond. Personally, I think the Nets absolutely fleeced the Sixers in that trade. I think the Sixers are going to be they're not going to be bad at all. They have Joel Embiid and James Harden, but I don't think that they're going to be contenders in any way, shape, or form. So Brooklyn, that's the downside. Brooklyn's going to be their first-round draft picks for the next, till Ben Simmons' contract's up. I highly doubt that they're going to be all that valuable. Now, when I look at this tweet, I'm thinking of guys like Christian Wood. I'm thinking of guys like Jayshawn Tate. I'm thinking of players who have a lot of young potential, where it's maybe, this is definitely not a proposed trade idea, but let's say Zion were to ask out in the offseason, and Houston's like, all right, you know what, let's try and go after him. The other side of that is, well, all right, I'm glad we have guys like Eric Gordon, Jayshawn Tate, Christian Wood still on the basketball team, because let's say the Rockets actually were to go out and trade for Zion, and you're not giving up some any of those players I just mentioned, well, all of a sudden the Houston Rockets become contenders again, or at least playoff relevant. So these are just things to kind of keep an open mind to. It was honestly looking like, and this is something we talked about this all the time last year. Like, we literally talked about this all the time last year. I think it was because, James Harden, 8 straight years, the Rockets were relevant, and then, it seemed like almost in the blink of an eye, the Rockets were a bottom feeder in the league, and it was like, all right, you know what, guys, don't worry, maybe this offseason we package a bunch of these picks up and we try and make a trade for a big-time player. Karl-Anthony Towns was a pretty big name last season because, Minnesota didn't have a good year. Cat had a horrible year dealing with all that COVID devastation, and it was looking like maybe, just maybe, Minnesota was going to finally be open to trading away Karl-Anthony Towns. But, as we've seen with James Harden last year, as we've seen with James Harden this season, like, star players get traded all the time, even like lower stars like Domantas Sabonis. I mean, I would kill for Sabonis to be on the Houston Rockets right now. I think he would be, oh my goodness gracious, he would be unbelievable. But these are just things to keep an open mind to if you ever get if you ever get down thinking about the Rockets. I got a comment yesterday on yesterday's video saying, let's be real here, guys, we're not going to win for 3 to 4 more years. I'm looking at that and I'm saying, ooh, sheesh, maybe if it was 1992, I would say, the Rockets probably have, maybe 3 years until they start getting at least a 500 record. But, this is a completely new era of basketball. I don't think rebuilding takes 5 years like it used to, several seasons ago. So Houston, man, they should be just fine. I'm really excited to watch him this upcoming week here. Jalen Green, hoping for big things to come from him. KPJ, hoping he can maintain all of those fire assist games he's been having, along with the high scoring totals. So there's a lot of hope in the air right now for Houston, in my opinion. But that trade for that superstar, you never know when it may come. And we'll see what happens in this draft. I don't think the Rockets would ever trade their pick, but who knows? Maybe you get a crazy offer for a legitimate superstar guy like Zion Williamson, maybe even Zion Williamson. I mean, who knows what Raphael Stone's going to decide to do. I think honestly it's only a matter of time before Zion gets out of New Orleans. Houston's way more enticing than New Orleans, no disrespect to New Orleans, but it's such a small market team, and I like CJ, I like Brandon Ingram, but I would imagine 2 seasons from now, when it doesn't work and they don't win a championship, because I don't really think that's a good enough championship, big 3, that's when I would imagine players are going to start wanting out. So hit the like button, hit that sub button, drop a comment down below if there was a star the Houston Rockets could legitimately trade for in the near future. Who are you hoping that they make the move for? Peace.